Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing the final hotel room in the Hotel Resort storyline, which is the 8th room. I believe the two themes that we had to choose between were antique and luxury. I obviously chose the luxury theme. It doesn't matter what you choose though, because regardless, you will unlock the marble set of items. And I said this in previous videos, I wish that these sets were more full. Like, I understand not having a marble bed, for example, but maybe give me like a marble bathtub. I don't know. Again, I know we have that square bathtub and we even have the whirlpool bath, which is also fine. But I think that we could use more sets like this that are fully fleshed out. However, it does go pretty well with the elegant set, but I really struggled to find a small enough table sort of situation to have like a dining space, because the marble island is the same footprint as the kitchen island item. It's literally the same item. It is also a cooking surface. You can like cook stuff on it, but it is a 2x2 thing. And the elegant set doesn't come with a dining table. The marble set does come with a dining table, but it's also a 2x2 item like the antique table, and we obviously were not about to use that. I can't remember what I went with in the end. I think I tried to swap it between the counter item. I can't remember what it's called, like the whatever the counter is that you can change the swatches on, and some of them match the ranch set, and the simple table and the wood plank one. I really like the wood plank table a lot, honestly. I think it's really nice. Does it fit this aesthetic? No, but I couldn't even use the ironwood dining table because that is also a 2x2. We don't have a 2x1 table in this game for dining that looks like it would fit with this theme. I was obviously going for more of like a generic luxury vibe, not more modern luxury. So I actually did stay in a penthouse once. I can't remember if I told this story here. I've definitely talked about it on my main channel. You guys know I go to a conference every year for the American Council of the Blind. I myself am low vision, and I've been involved in the organization nationally and also at the state level for the better part of the last 13 years now. Here we are in 2026. So my first ever national convention was in 2014. That year it was in Las Vegas. I went with some people that I knew, and I was staying with somebody else that I didn't fly out with. She was coming from a different state. At that point in time, I think she was on the national board or something. She had some sort of leadership position. All of this is volunteer. All of these leadership things I'm talking about are volunteer. Nobody is paid for this. But because she was in some sort of leadership role, her perk was to have a suite. There were suites at this hotel. The hotel that we had the convention at has since been torn down because it wasn't like on the Vegas Strip. It was kind of like off the strip in not a great area. I think it was kind of near where Circus is. I remember being like relatively close to that, but that's neither here nor there. So she had a suite and she was like, hey, room with me. It's about the same cost as a regular hotel room for the group rate or whatever the case was, but we'll split the cost, whatever, yada yada. And so we had a suite with 2 queen beds. That is what was booked. However, the hotel messed up. So they sent us to a room initially that was a suite, but it only had 1 bed in it. I think it was a king. We were there for like 9 or 10 nights. We were not about to share this bed together. I mean, we really probably could have if it came down to it, because it was big enough where we probably wouldn't have disturbed each other, but still, that was not what we were about to do. So the hotel was like, all right, whatever, we'll send you guys to another room. We'll move you. We also had to go through the convention coordinator for this, or at least my friend did, because the reservation was under her name, I think, but the room, I believe, was booked by the convention coordinator at the time. Now they do things differently and you book your own room if you're on the board. I don't know what the process is, but that's what I've heard anyway. So they sent us to another room. It was in a different tower of the hotel, but it was just a regular hotel room. It wasn't a suite. That wouldn't have been an issue, except my friend is very, very badly allergic to cigarette smoke, and they put us in a part of the hotel that was smoking. So the room had a very bad, like, stale cigarette smell to it, and she gets very ill from that. So she again called the convention coordinator and was like, hey, this isn't gonna work. Like, our room is basically like whoever was in here was smoking. Like, we're in a smoking part of the hotel, and we can't stay here. And not only that, but it was a regular standard hotel room. It honestly looked really seedy, like a motel room that we were in. It was completely, I think it was like an older part of the hotel, because the suite that we had walked into initially was much newer. It looked nicer, to be quite frank. The regular standard hotel room we walked into looked like it was from the 70s and hadn't been updated. It was like night and day, completely different decor, very bare bones, minimalist. Like, I think it was an older part of the hotel. So the convention coordinator comes back calling my friend, and she's like, okay, we're gonna move you again. The hotel overbooked, whatever the conversation was. And I only heard my friend's side of it because I was there with her. Keep in mind too, we had our own luggage with us. We didn't have a bell cart, so we were lugging our luggage all around the entire hotel. And it was a giant resort hotel with a convention center because we were there for a conference, and there were other conferences happening too, because it was Las Vegas. It was a big hotel. Long story short, they moved us up to the penthouse level and put us in a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom penthouse. So we had access to one exterior door with our key cards, like that led into the hallway from like the room, if that makes sense. Like it led into the room from the hotel hallway. And from that, you were in like a hallway itself with some stairs leading up, because we were in the room, but it was like the right-hand wing of the penthouse. So obviously we then had interior access to the whole rest of the penthouse. It was set up like the middle part of it was cathedral ceilings, and it was a giant living room setup with like a huge like leather couch, leather chairs, a bar with bar seating, a dining table that could fit like 12 people. We didn't have a full fridge. I think we just had like a regular mini fridge and a sink and a coffee maker. I can't exactly remember, but like the countertops were granite. On the main level there, on either side of that giant room, there was a bedroom. In one wing, it was queen beds, and the other wing, it was king beds. But each room itself had one bed in it, so it could sleep like 8 people, I think. Regardless, each accompanying room also obviously had its own bathroom. However, the rooms on the upper level of the penthouse were much nicer. So the rooms on the lower level where you walked in initially were your standard hotel rooms, except they were bigger. Like, you know, standard setup with the bed and the ensuite bathroom. I think the bathrooms were larger than like the standard hotel rooms, but whatever. The second level, so she was on one side in one wing on the upper level, and I was in the other wing on the upper level. Our bathrooms had like a separate tub and shower, like a giant walk-in shower with a rainfall shower head, a giant soaking tub with the jets, like it was a jacuzzi tub. I think it was double sinks too in the vanity, I can't remember, and skylights in the bathroom. There were no like windows, but like there was a skylight. It was so bizarre. And then like the rooms themselves were just, you know, standard hotel room, bed, chair, whatever situation. I was only really in there to sleep. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time taking advantage of the comfort of the room because like there was a lot of stuff that we were doing. A few times though, I did go back and bring food back and eat there, like snacks or desserts or whatever. If I like had nothing else to do, I would just go back up to the room, sit in quiet, sit at the bar, have some cake or whatever, and it was nice. The last night that we were there, I remember we had a bunch of our friends over like that night because it was the last night of the convention and everybody was going home the next day. Well, mostly everybody was going home the next day. And that was nice because obviously we had the most space, so we were able to sit everybody comfortably. And some people obviously had guide dogs, so we weren't all like crammed into a little hotel room. Not that it would have mattered, but I'm never going to have an experience like that ever again in my life. That was pure luck. Obviously, the hotel itself had seen better days. It was very outdated, and I think that's partially why that they got rid of it. Like they tore it down not long after our convention was there and a couple others because it was just old. I think that it was probably cheaper for them to get rid of it and rebuild it if they ever rebuilt it instead of refurbishing it. But that's my penthouse story. Part of me wishes that when we were doing all of these other rooms for the hotel that we could see who moved into them immediately instead of having to go to the next day and check who was staying where, because I never did that. The only villager that we get introduced to right away and talk to essentially is the lazy villager that moves into the seaside room that we all have to do at the very beginning as like the tutorial sort of situation. But then, you know, we don't get new guests until the day rolls over. I've done quite a few VIP rooms so far. It does kind of suck that they clear out the day after. I understand why like the whole mechanic is going on, but part of the time I'm like, why am I putting in this much time and effort though to build it and design it when it's just going to be completely cleared out once the day rolls over. I'm having fun. I find this a lot better sometimes than Happy Home Paradise because it's a more bite-sized thing. I haven't really gone to Paradise Planning on this Switch except to get cardboard boxes from the catalog, but I have been going through the storyline at Paradise Planning on my second island to get more furniture unlocked and to also convert Pokey to Bells eventually because we're still paying off our last home loan. And even then, I haven't really gotten that far in the Paradise Planning storyline. I've only done the first batch of homes that you can do on the first day of going there. And I've only been putting down the 3 requested items and then leaving because I don't have the patience or energy to deal with anything more than that. And I'm not intending to speedrun it, obviously, but I really do want the DIYs for the partitions, pillars, and counters, and to get them natively, and to also just be able to redo villager houses on my island and reset the 5-starter villager homes. However, we are done here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave any comments, feedback, and suggestions down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!